everyone, Juliet Benini here. Today we're going to do a beginner's Vinyasa flow class, so suitable for everyone. It's useful to have a block, but not absolutely necessary, or two. You can use a book or nothing at all. We're going to start in a seating position, whatever seating position is comfortable for you. Sukhasana, easy pose, meant to be easy for us to sit and meditate for many, many hours. Just kidding. But we're going to start out the practice this way. I'm going to sit up on a block in a cross-legged position. It is useful to have our knees under our hips. It helps us keep a straight spine. But you can also sit, for example, in a kneeling position, on a pillow, or whatever is comfortable. Simply to ground ourselves and to arrive into our space. Your hands can be on your knees or resting on the lap, whatever is comfortable. And just feel yourself settling into stillness here. Feel nice and heavy in the sit bones, rooting down into the earth, but at the same time, a lift through the crown of the head. Feeling that opposition of forces, getting you a little taller, sitting up a little prouder, shoulders relaxed and down away from the ears. Let's take the 3 deepest breaths that you've taken yet today. So, exhale out all the air from your lungs. Start on empty. Inhale through the nose. Fill up to the top. Hold it. Sip in a bit more. Open the mouth, sigh it out. All the way to the bottom. Hold it. Inhale through the nose. All the way to the top. Fill up a little more. And open the mouth, sigh it out. One last time. Inhale through the nose. Filling up all the way to the top. For 3, 2, 1. Open the mouth, move it through. Now you might close down the eyes if you haven't already. And begin a more even, deep, cyclical breath. In through the nose and out through the nose. Actually, bring both hands onto the belly. As you inhale, try to breathe deep into the belly, feeling your belly filling up like a balloon. And on your exhale, feel the belly compress and the navel pull in towards the spine. Inhaling, belly fills up like a balloon. And exhaling, navel pulls back in. Bring your hands back onto your knees or wherever they land. Just take one last moment to gather yourself, to feel present here, in the here and now, in your space, the time that you are making for you in the next hour or so. Flutter open the eyes. Drop your right ear to right shoulder. Feel the nice stretch in the neck. Little lift of the chin to bring the chin back to center. Drop your left ear to left shoulder. And bring the head down, chin to chest. Inhale. And exhale. Other way, bring your left ear to left shoulder. Little lift of the chest, of the chin, Drop your right ear to right shoulder. And circle it back down, chin to chest. Take a deep breath. Now look ahead. On an inhale, reach your arms up and interlace your hands except for your thumbs and point your palms towards the ceiling. Plug your shoulders down away from the ears. On your next inhale, open up the heart. So bump your heart forward, pull your tailbone back, and reach your pinky fingers to the back of the room as you look up. And exhale, round through the back body, chin to chest. And imagine you're pressing the palms to an invisible wall in front of you. Back of the heart towards back of the room. Again, inhale, open up, pinky fingers, press back, heart pushes forward, look up. And exhale, round through the back body. Imagine you're pressing the heart to the back of the room. One last time. Inhale, open up. We're mobilizing through the spine. And exhale, close it out. Feel the shoulder blades moving away from each other. Inhale, bring your arms back up. Bring your right hand to the ground beside you. And exhale, reach your left arm up and over. Breathing here, feeling the side body stretch along the entire left side, opening up a little through that left armpit. Keeping both sit bones rooted, reaching through those left fingers. Inhale, come back to center, both arms up. Exhale, other side, left hand down, right arm up and over. Reaching with those right fingertips, opening up through the right shoulder. Breathing into the sensation in the right side body. Inhale, both arms up. We're going to twist to the right with the torso on an exhale. So bring the right hand behind you and left hand to right knee. Breathe here into the twist, inhaling to reach to the crown of the head and be tall in the spine, and exhaling, using the hands to push your twist a little deeper. Inhale, unravel, reach your arms up, back to neutral. And exhale, twisting to the left, right hand on left knee, left hand behind you, twist. Inhaling to get tall through the spine. And exhaling to twist a little deeper. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, we're going to meet in a tabletop position facing the front of your mat. So here, you're kneeling. Remove the block, by the way. So your wrists are under your shoulders, your knees are under your hips. Your fingers are spread nice and wide, so feel the connection of your palms and your finger pads and knuckle pads to the ground. We're going to start mobilizing into the spine, similarly as we did sitting, in a movement called cat-cow. So inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the heart, lift the chin wide across your collarbones. And exhale, round through the back body, chin to chest. Press the back of the heart to the sky. Again, inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the collarbones, lift your gaze. And exhale, rounding through the back body. Press the back of the ribs towards the sky as you tuck your tailbone. Again, inhale, arch the spine, looking up, cow pose. And exhale, really exaggerate these movements. Round it out. Now close your eyes and staying in this tabletop position with your knees grounded and your hands grounded, take any movement that feels good as you continue to breathe. You might take some circles with the hips. If so, reverse the direction of the circles. You might get the head and neck involved. See if you can move from a place of feeling rather than thinking. See what the body is asking of you. Does not matter what it looks like whatsoever. Just try to link your movements with breath. Meet me in a neutral tabletop position. We're going to come into a plank from here and start firing up into the core. So reach your right leg behind you, flex your back toes, and bring your toes to the ground. Now, getting strong through the arms and through the core, reach your left leg behind you and step your left toes next to the right. So now we're in a strong, straight plank position. Pull your navel in towards your spine. We want our hips to be in line with our shoulders. press into the ground with your hands. Reach through those heels. Your legs are straight and strong. Engage your glutes. Say hello to the fire inside of you for 3, 2, and 1. Lower your knees to the ground. Bend your elbows back. Lower your chest and chin to the ground. Your bum stays in the air. Inhale, slide forward to bring your hips to the ground. Untuck your toes and reach your chest forward. This is low cobra. So you're pressing the tops of the toes into the ground. Your heart is reaching forward. The crown of your head is tall. And your elbows are back behind you. You don't put much weight into your hands. Squeeze the glutes to protect the lower back. Exhale, melt the heart to the ground. Bring your forehead to the ground. So on an inhale, you're going to reach your legs back behind you off the floor and hover your hands off the floor. Inhale, come up. So here we're just balancing on our pubic bone and our belly button. Your neck is a natural extension of the spine, so we're not craning in the neck. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Keep the legs straight. Point through the toes. We're firing up in the muscles of the back body. Pull the shoulder blades together on the back. For 3, 2, and 1. Exhale. Bring the hands back to the ground. Bring the feet back to the ground. Then bring the forehead to the ground. Inhale here. Exhale here. We're going to come into a child's pose. So press through the palms to lift the hips through your tabletop position. Keep bringing the hips back so that they sit onto the heels. Your arms stay extended long out in front of you. So here, make sure your big toes are touching. The tops of the feet are on the ground. Your knees can be either together or wide or anywhere in between. And your arms are straight, palms really pressing into the ground. Forehead is touching the ground. We'll see if you can really relax and melt into this pose. Like you're pouring a glass of water. Closing down the eyes. The great thing about yoga is that you can come into child's pose at any time. Because we're meant to be listening to our bodies, taking breaks, sometimes pushing to our edge, but never pushing past it. We're all on a different yoga journey and there's no judgment. From here, we're going to come into probably the most famous pose, which is downward facing dog. You might have heard of it. So, tuck your toes. Keep your feet sort of hip-width distance apart, keeping your hands really pressing into the mat. And we're going to lift the knees off the ground in order to straighten the legs and send your hips back. So we're making an upside down V shape with the body. Now your knees might not come to straight, which is totally fine. But make sure you're pressing into the fingers. You're lifting up through the tailbone, and you're trying to press the heels as close as possible to the ground behind you. Your heels might not touch the ground, and that's totally fine, but the direction is there. See if you can start to feel around in your downward facing dog and get comfortable in it. So maybe bend one knee and bend the other, like pedaling out your dog. Feel the spine really waterfalling forward. You want to sort of roll the inner elbows out a little. So roll your triceps towards your biceps towards your ears, so out a little bit. And you're reaching that heart towards the thighs. Breathing here. In yoga, every breath is linked to a movement, so it really is a moving meditation. We're so focused on placing our bodies, aligning our bodies with each breath that we really can't think about anything else. Let's continue this moving meditation by walking the feet towards the hands. So you end up in a forward fold at the top of the mat, but keep a generous bend in the knees here. We're definitely not warmed up in our hamstrings yet. We're all built differently. So end up folding over the legs at the top of the mat with a generous bend in the knees.
Now let go of your neck, let go of your head, let go of your shoulders. You might even grab opposite elbows with your hands and sway side to side a little bit, like a rag doll. And shake your head yes and no. Maybe close down the eyes. Feel all those little muscles in the neck and the back. Release. Now release the hands, and very slowly, one vertebrae at a time, grounding through the feet, we're going to come up to a standing position. Stacking the vertebrae, your head is the last to come up.
Now we're standing tall in what is called a mountain pose. Now this is actually a pose because we're standing in an anatomically correct position, which most of us do not. So we want to have our feet hip-width distance apart. Maybe pull all 10 toes off of the mat and then separate them wide and let them come back down. Really gripping your feet into the earth, feeling like they're sort of roots of a tree. Palms are facing forward. Slight engagement in the kneecaps and quadriceps. Slight tuck in the tailbone. Shoulders relaxed back and down away from the ears. Imagine a piece of string pulling you from the crown of the head up, standing tall. Chin is parallel to the ground and your gaze is forward and soft. Feeling strong and steady like a mountain. We're going to do a couple of sun salutation A, which is, again, quite a famous sequence in yoga, and it's what teachers usually teach first. And it's something, once you get the hang of it, you can do it every morning to say hello to the sun, even if it's not sunny. And it's so good for you. So, bring palms to heart center together and close your eyes. Maybe to set an intention for your practice. Who would you like to cultivate this good energy for? Who comes to mind that might need a little bit of help? That person might be you. And that's great. Practice for the inner. Let her open the eyes. On an inhale, reach your arms up, palms together, look up at the thumbs. And exhale, hinge at the hips and fold forward over the legs, Uttanasana. Keep a generous bend in the knees still, arms down. Inhale, come up just halfway, so flat back, long neck, and hands on shins. Exhale, bend the knees to plant the hands and step back into your plank position. Strong in your plank. Inhale here. And exhale, lower your knees, chest and chin to the ground, elbows point back, bum stays in the air. Inhale, slide forward to low cobra. So hips come onto the ground, pubic bone on the ground, point the toes and lift the heart. And exhale, tuck the toes, press into the hands to send the hips back and then straighten the legs, downward facing dog. Let's take 5 breaths here. Inhale. And exhale, reaching those heels towards the ground. Inhale. Exhale, really pressing into the palms, especially the space between your thumb and forefinger. Inhale, legs as straight as possible. Exhale, reaching your coccyx, your tailbone up towards the sky. Inhale. Exhale, reaching your heart towards those thighs and your gaze is in between the legs. Now, bend your knees, arch your back, and look between your hands and start to take a walk to arrive into your forward fold at the top of the mat. Inhale, rebound, come up just halfway like before, so torso is parallel to the ground. And exhale, let go of the front body, fold forward, close the front side of the body. Inhale, root to rise, come all the way up, wide arms, palms together, look up, reach up with everything. And exhale, palms together at heart center, Samastiti. So that was your sun A. Now we're going to try it again a little faster. Inhale, reach your arms up, palms together, look up at your hands. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fold forward over the legs, Uttanasana.
Let go of the head.
Inhale, look up halfway, heart forward, straight spine. Exhale, plant the hands, step into plank position, and finish your exhale, lowering knees, chest, and chin to the ground. Elbows point back. Inhale, slide forward, low cobra, hips to the ground, point the toes, reach the heart forward. Exhale, tuck the toes, send the hips back, straighten the leg, downward facing dog. Take a moment to check in with your breath, check in with your heartbeat. Now bend your knees, arch your back, look between your hands, and start to take a walk in between your hands, keeping knees nice and bent, ending up in your forward fold, Uttanasana, at the top of the mat. Inhale, look up halfway, straight legs and straight spine. Exhale, fold forward over the legs, close the front side of the body. Inhale, root to rise, come all the way up, wide arms. Look up at the hands. Exhale, bring the prayer to heart center, Samastiti. On your next inhale, we're going to come into a chair pose. So, bring your arms up, palms can be facing each other, shoulder width distance, and sit your hips back into an invisible chair. Now you can modify this by bringing your palms to heart center if that's easier. Now make sure most of your weight is on your heels. Your lower back here is flat, so we're not arching in the spine. Keep your shoulders relaxed and down, away from the ears. Your gaze is up at your thumbs. Engage your triceps to pull the arms up. One last breath here. Really engage the lower abdominals. And exhale, fold forward over the legs.
Hang out here in your Uttanasana. And one vertebrae at a time, start to come up.
Head is last to come up. Now we're going to do a couple of warrior poses, which are very strong, proud, standing poses in yoga. So, warrior one, I'd like you to take a big step back with your left foot. So you have a wide stance across your legs. You're facing the left of the mat. But now we're going to turn our torso to face the front of the mat. Point your right toes to the front of the mat. And have your back toes about 45 degrees. Now use your hands on your hips to square your hips so they're both facing the front of the mat. And start to take a deep bend in your front leg. Try to find a tuck in your tailbone here. We're aiming for a 90-degree angle in our front leg, but we can keep our knee back a little. Just don't bring it forward past your heel. And the full pose is bringing your arms up, palms facing each other. Now, right hip back, left hip forward. Really ground through the outer edge of the back foot like a sharp knife. Feel strong in your core. Shoulders are relaxed and down away from the ears as you pull the lower ribs in so that you're not flaring out the ribs. And your sacrum, your tailbone, is heavy, rooting towards the direction of the ground. We're going to come into warrior two now, which is an opening to the side. So inhale here. And exhale, open up to the left, pointing your left hand to the back of the mat, right arm forward. So there's one long line across your hands. Palms are facing down. You still have a deep bend in the front leg, and your back foot now is about parallel to the back of the mat. Your hips and shoulders are now facing the side. So there's a bit of an opening in the hips now and an opening in the heart. We're spinning the heart to the left a little bit. Our gaze, our drishti in yoga is really important. It keeps our focus. And our gaze is across the horizon of that front middle finger. Feel the sensations, the shakes happening in the body. Sit deeper into that front knee. Make sure that that front knee is tractioning over the toe, the sort of middle big toe. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed and away from the ears. Unclench the jaw. Breathe into the fingertips. Just a couple more breaths. Feel the shoulder blades melt together on the back body. Feel wide across the collarbones. Next, we're coming into Trikonasana, triangle pose. So straighten the front leg and maybe step the back foot forward just a little bit. You're still in quite a wide stance though. And inhale here. And exhale, plug the right hip back a little bit so that you can reach the right arm forward and then the right arm down towards your right ankle and opening up the left arm. So we're keeping this side opening, and this is our Trikonasana. So one long line across your hands. Your hand can be, at this point, on a block, your right hand. We're bringing the floor towards you. Blocks are so useful, even in advanced yoga poses. So we want to be really strong in our feet here. So pressing away from the ground with your feet. Feeling a lifting sensation. So pulling up your kneecaps, pulling up your quadriceps, super strong legs. One long line across the hands. Spin your left side ribs towards the sky. Imagine you're kind of pressing your entire back body against a wall, or you're in between two panes of glass. The full pose is looking up at your left fingertips. Shoulders away from the ears. Can't say that enough. All right. Super strong in the core and in the legs. Inhale, come back up with the torso. Move the block to the side if you used it. And bring your right toes in. So now you should be in a wide-legged stance, facing the side of the mat, with your toes slightly in and your heels a little bit out. Bring your hands on your hips. Inhale to look up and open up the heart. And exhale, forward fold, but this time with the legs wide. Now, your hands here can also find blocks. And there's different height settings for the blocks as well. Or your hands might also find the floor. But what you want to do is release the upper body, release the weight of the head. But at the same time, press through the outer edges of the feet, pull up the knees and quads again, pull the coccyx up. So there's this opposition of forces of the legs pulling up and the upper body waterfalling down. Breathe into the sensations. Now, every yoga pose has a drishti, a place to put your eyes, because our focus brings our attention, and our attention is so precious these days, especially. There's so much stimulus. So here, our drishti is at the space above our nose. If you don't know where to put your drishti, or where to put your gaze in yoga, this drishti is always useful, just that space of your third eye. So our gaze is inwards. And we're really feeling everything happening in the body right now. Sending oxygen, sending exhales to the places at which you feel the most sensation. All right. Inhale to come up halfway. Plant your hands on your hips, super strong through the legs. See if you can come up all the way. Now we're going to come into a strong pose called goddess pose. So step your heels in this time so that your feet, your toes are wider than your heels. And then bend the knees wide and see if you can sit into a wide sort of chair, goddess pose. Super, super strong. It's like the B position, or the 2 position in ballet. See if you can press your knees towards the back of the room, away from each other. Your arms might even come into strong arms. Full goddess pose. Tuck in your tailbone, strong in your lower belly. If you want, you can even play with lifting one heel off the ground or lifting the other, or both. One point of focus for your gaze helps with balance, so find a point on the floor. For 3, 2, 1. Inhale, reach the arms up, straighten the legs, bring the palms together, star pose. And exhale, step back to the front of the mat, Samastiti, palms together at heart center. Before we do the other side, bring your mind back to your intention. Close your eyes for a minute. These pockets of stillness are so important for us to gather ourselves, presence ourselves, and remember the why. Now, step your right foot back, wide-legged, facing the right of the mat. And then point your left toes to the front of the mat, and your back toes, your right toes, are in about 45 degrees. You might need to widen your stance a little bit, so heel toe your left toes to the left just a little. We're not on a tight rope here. And then start to bend deeply into that left knee. Keeping the back leg super straight and engaged, grounding through the outer edge of the back foot. That's your anchor. Bring your right hip forward, your left hip back, so that, imagine your hips are headlights. They're both facing the front of the room. So this will feel a really nice stretch in the front of your right hip. Tuck the tailbone slightly so that your sacrum is heavy and traveling down towards the mat. Inhale, reach your arms up, palms facing each other. Engage the triceps to keep them by the ears, reaching up. Knit your lower ribs in. Deeper bend in that front knee, breathing. Shoulders relaxed and down. Just check, make sure that your knee is not tractioning over the toes. Maybe bring that front knee to the left just a little. Inhale here. Exhale, warrior 2. So now we're opening up our hips and shoulders to the right side of the mat. Opening up your arms so there's one long line across your arms. Your palms are facing down. That back foot is now parallel to the back of the mat. Front toes still pointing forward. And now the headlights that are on your hips are facing the side. Same with your shoulders. Feeling broad, feeling wide, taking up space. It's a very spacious pose, this one. Bend a little deeper in the front knee. Bring the front knee to the left a little bit. Remember your gaze, your focus is across the front middle finger. Melt the shoulder blades down the back. Relax the muscles in the face. If you're shaking, that's good. All right, Trikonasana. Straighten the front leg. You might heel toe the back foot forward just an inch. And now exhale to reach out of the waist, the left hand forward, but keeping the opening to the side. And then keeping a micro bend in the front knee to protect the joint space. Bring the left hand down, the right arm up, wide across the collarbones. One long line across your hands. Now your left hand, once again, can be on your ankle. It can just be hovering, or it can be on a block in front of your left foot. Reach your right arm up. Try not to dunk your weight into that left hand or shoulder. Your legs are engaged and they're pushing up. Pull up your kneecaps and quadriceps. Left hip tries to stack on top of the right. Right shoulder stacks on top of the left. Your gaze, if possible, is either to the side or at your raised fingers. Be as bright and bold as you can be here. Okay, super strong in the legs. Inhale, come back up with the torso. Exhale, bring the left toes in. So now we're in a wide stance facing the left of the mat, the right of the mat. Hands on hips. Inhale, open up the heart, squeeze the glutes. Exhale, hinging at the hips, folding forward once again. Hands might find blocks or the floor. And let go of the head.
Might even close down the eyes here. Coming back to breath. Coming back to the feeling of all the sensations. And how that can presence you. Inhale to come up halfway. Exhale, bring your hands onto your hips, strong through the legs. Inhale, come all the way up. We'll skip the goddess pose on this side. So step your right foot to meet the left at the front of the mat. Okay, we're going to come into a balancing position. So we're going to do a quite straightforward one called tree pose. If we wobble and we fall, that's part of the playtime. And we try to come back in. Stand at the top of your mat. I'm going to stand here to face you so you can see me better. Best advice I can give you for your standing balance, and advice that has helped me, is to really ground through whatever foot is your standing foot, being wide across the feet, so like exaggerating the surface area of your foot. And then being super strong in the standing leg. So whatever your standing leg is, you're really pulling up the kneecaps, pulling up the quadriceps, squeezing the glutes. And then the integrity of the spine, keeping the spine nice and tall. And then really pulling everything in. So knitting your navel in towards your spine, engaging everything, taking up little surface area, but feeling relaxed in the shoulders and the upper body. And of course, finding one point of focus for your gaze ahead of you. So maybe an unmoving point on the floor or something, and keeping a soft and relaxed focus at that unmoving point will help you with your balance. Now, with that in mind, let's stand tall in our Tadasana. Starting with balancing on the left foot, find that point of focus for your gaze, and simply point your right knee to the right and come onto the tippy toes of your right foot. Your right heel kind of touches your left ankle. Now this is already a balance. If you're ready for more, you're going to try to bring the sole of the right foot on the left calf. Remember to squeeze the left glute. If you want to go further, you can bring the sole of the left foot up the leg and plug it into the inner left thigh. Now, make sure that the foot isn't on anywhere near your left knee. You can even use your hand to help you guide the right foot into the inner left thigh. Once you find the contact, press thigh against foot and foot back into thigh. So there's a plug there, which really helps. Keep pressing foot into thigh and thigh back into foot. Super strong in the standing leg. One point of focus for your balance. Super strong in your core. Crown of the head reaches tall, but you're relaxed in your upper body. Notice the conversation that your standing foot is having with the ground. All the little muscles that are moving to keep you steady. It's definitely not a still pose, but trees aren't totally still, are they? Now your hands can come to heart center. Remember, we're probably falling in and out here, which is totally great. Or you can grow the branches of your tree by extending your arms up. And when you've had enough, gently break the pose, bring your right foot back down, and wiggle your legs a little bit. You might even jump up and down, shake it out, give it a dance, until we do our other side. Feet width distance apart, gripping the feet, standing tall in our mountain pose. Starting to bring weight into our right foot. Lift the left hip a little bit in order to come onto your left tippy toes first. Left knee points outwards. And now bringing even more weight into your right foot, you might bring the left sole of your foot to touch the right calf, or guiding the foot upwards. Remember not to plant it anywhere near the knee. Plugging the left sole of the foot into the right inner thigh. Press foot into leg and leg back into foot. Super strong in your right glutes. Pull up the kneecaps and quadriceps in your right leg, grounding through all four corners of your right foot. One point of focus for your gaze. Hands can come to heart center, or you can grow the branches of your tree again. Remember, you might be down here. You might have
still your left toes on the ground. This is still standing balance, and it's a great way to practice. And when you've had enough, bring your left foot down, give it another little shake. We're going to make our way down. Stand tall in Savasana at the front of your mat. Inhale, reach the arms up, palms together, and look up at your hands. Reach, reach, reach. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Fold forward, Uttanasana. Let go of the head. Inhale, look up halfway, hands on shins, and flat back, long neck. Exhale, plant the hands, step back into plank position. Here I'm going to give you an option to lower down Chaturanga instead of knees, chest, chin. So if you're feeling really strong, you can try this. It's kind of like a low plank and then an upward facing dog, okay? So either when I say exhale, you're going to lower knees, chest, and chin, then slide forward to low cobra like we did, heart pointing forward, tops of toes on the ground, and then meeting in a downward facing dog. Or you can lower down Chaturanga with me. So plank pose, inhale. Exhale, stay in your plank position, but bend the elbows, pointing them to the back of the room. Inhale, upward facing dog. So straighten the arms, reach your heart forward, and come onto the tops of the toes. So in an upward facing dog, only the tops of the feet and the hands are touching the ground. Your glutes are engaged to protect your lower back. Your entire leg and hip are off the ground. Your arms are straight. You're pressing your heart forward. Your shoulders are away from the ears. And exhale, roll over the toes, downward facing dog. That's called taking a vinyasa, and we do it a lot to sort of rinse out the body after various poses or evening out the body. You can either stay in downward facing dog, or you can bring your knees to the ground and sit back into your child's pose. If you want to try taking a vinyasa again, you might be somebody who's already done it lots of times, and you're like, why are you explaining this to me? Or this might be your first time and you want to try again. So inhale, roll forward to plank position, shoulders over wrists. Exhale, bend the elbows, point them back, elbows graze the ribs. Inhale, upward facing dog, tops the toes on the ground. Send your heart forward through the gateway of your arms, squeeze the glutes. Exhale, roll over the toes, downward facing dog. Really nice. Let's take a lion's breath, which is a really nice detoxing breath. Inhale through the nose. And on an exhale, you're going to stick out your tongue and sigh it out, making a weird lion sound. Okay? So let's try. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, open the mouth, stick out the tongue. Really good for moving energy through. All right. Bring your knees to the ground so that we're back in our tabletop position. On an inhale, send your right leg behind you. And exhale, bring your knee towards your nose, round through the back, and step your right foot through between your hands, slightly in front of your hands. However you can, it might not be pretty. But we're in a sort of low lunge here. Now, slide your back knee back. We're going to come up with the upper body. So if this isn't a place that's accessible for you, you can bring your hands onto blocks by your front foot. But basically what we're trying to do is sitting into our hips. So your hips are heavy and pressing forward and down in order to feel a really deep stretch in our quads and the front of the left hip. Full pose is reaching the arms up overhead, Anjaneyasana, lower lunge. I'm going to keep my hands on my front knee. Might even find a little bounce with the hips. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If you feel any sharp pain, back out. If your back knee feels weird on the ground, you might want to cushion it with a blanket or something, or you can fold your mat a little bit to create cushioning for your back knee. Remember to send your exhales to the points at which you feel sensation, sending oxygen to the sticky spots. This is very good for runners, this pose. All right, I'm going to come into a half split from here, Ardha Hanumanasana. So you're simply going to bring the blocks or your hands on the ground, start walking them back as you straighten the front leg. So sending your hips back and pulling your right toes towards your face. Pull the right hip back. See if you can really keep that front leg straight or as close as you can to straight. Your wrists stay under your shoulders. So here we're working on a hinging sensation like in our forward fold with our hips. You're reaching the right hip back, left hip forward, hinging with the hips, leading with the chest, leaning your chest over your front leg, but without rounding the back. All right, rebend into your front leg. So we're back in that low lunge. Now we're going to come into a hip stretch called pigeon pose, which you've probably done or heard of. So you're going to heel toe the front foot to the left and keep doing it until your right knee drops. So we want our front shin to be as parallel as possible to the front of the mat, but it probably won't be. Your ankle might come close to your left hip. Now slide your back knee back until your left hip comes close to the ground. Now this is our pigeon pose shape. If you find your right hip is falling over to the right, placing a block to fill the space between your right hip and the ground is a great idea. And once you found a position in which you can mostly square off your hips to the front, you can melt down into the pose. So bringing your forearms to the ground or to blocks, or you might even bring your forehead onto a block or all the way onto belly. So you might you might be here, you might be on your hands. But whatever depth of the fold you found, it's really useful to have your forehead on a block so you can sort of melt into the shape so that you're not holding up in any way. And close the eyes. So many yoga teachers say that the hips is the emotional junkyard of the body. We hold a lot of unresolved feelings in our hips. So breathing through them can be challenging. Your breath is your best friend in pigeon pose. Allow the sensations to happen. Breathe deeply and send your exhales to the points of sensation. Every exhale is an opportunity to soften in those sticky spots, likely in the right hip. Fight against the urge to grip in the hip. Let it soften. And feel this healthy kind of pain, this release. And when you're ready, and only when you feel ready, start to walk your hands back. And then we're simply going to press into the hands and send your back knee next to your left. So we're back in our tabletop position. Move your hip side to side a little bit. See if you feel a difference between the right and left hip. You might even take some circles with the hips. And reverse the direction of the circles. All right, the same little cool down sequence on the other side. Inhale to reach your left leg behind you. Exhale, left knee to nose. Make space. You might have to bring your left hand off the ground for this. To step your left foot through in front of your hands. Low lunge. So your hands might find blocks here. But make the hips heavy and soft and forward. If you don't feel sensation in the front of your right hip, then slide your back knee back. You might even find that slight bounce, but being careful not to go past your edge. When you feel even on this side, I'm going to come into our hamstring stretch, our half split. So walking your hands or the blocks back as you send your hips back and start to straighten through that front leg. Pull the front toes towards your face. Now we're working on hinging the hips, bringing the belly towards that front thigh, keeping that front leg flexed, and lowering the torso over the front leg. We're working also on squaring the hips, so pulling the left hip back, right hip forward. Now there's going to be a lot of sensation in the legs here, especially in the Achilles tendon as well, as you flex the toes back. And relax the jaw. All right, when you're ready, rebend into the front leg, back in our low lunge. Now we're going to take that transition into pigeon. So heel toe, your front foot to the right, until your front knee drops over to the left. Send your hips low. You might have to slide that back knee back. Now remember, you can place a block at any height which is needed underneath that left hip. If you find there's a lot of space between the left hip and the ground and you're falling to the left a little. We want our hips to be relatively squared in pigeon. You might also want to look back and make sure that the back leg is straight. The knee is behind the hip. Inhale here and exhale to sink into the pose, folding forward over the legs. You might be on your hands, you might be on your forearms, you might be coming onto the belly, making sure that you bring your forehead onto something as you breathe. Try to be spacious and soft in your neck and shoulders. A practice in letting go. Kind of an intellectual pose, this one. I find fighting with my monkey mind, fighting with my urges to hold on and to resist. And then it feels so good after when I've let go and sort of surrender. Opening up to what is, opening up to the sensations of right now. You can breathe through pigeon pose. You can breathe through a lot of uncomfortable or difficult situations in life. All right. Start to lift the head up. Start to walk the hands back. This time to come out of the pose, we're going to come into a seat. So allow yourself, remove the block if you have it. Allow your left hip to fall onto the ground this time. So moving your body to sit on your left hip. And then see if you can simply rotate the right leg around. Then you come into a sitting position facing the front of the mat. Now, we're on your sit bones. Remember, you're welcome to sit up onto a block if this sitting position isn't accessible or nice for you. Now bring the knees wide and bring the soles of the feet together, outside edges of the feet on the ground, sort of butterfly shape. Might be a familiar shape. Your hands hold on to the big toes. And you might flutter your butterfly a little. Moving, finding some movement in the knees and the hips. Sitting up tall through the spine, engaging, pulling the navel in towards the spine. Crown of the head is reaching. You're really grounded in the sit bones. Lower back is flat. Inhale here. Exhale, either stay or sink into the fold, leaning over the legs. Your elbows might catch your inner thighs or your shins to help press your knees out wider. Bringing your forehead towards your feet. But at the same time, keeping space in the shoulders, pressing your shoulders down. Here you can allow yourself to round in the back, feeling a stretch along the entire back side of the body and the neck. Inhale to come back up. Keep the legs as they are. Reach your arms out in front of you. See if you can use the strength of the core. You might need to scoot forward on your mat a little because we're going to come down onto our backs. Rolling down onto our backs, one vertebrae at a time. Now, if this is too much for the hip flexors, the inner thighs, you can bring blocks underneath your knees here. Once again, to fill that space between your knees and the floor. Okay. If you have blocks, maybe remove them for the next couple poses, which is supine twists. Open your arms out into a T. And simply let your right knee come over the body and fall and stack onto the left. Gentle supine twist. So your knees are stacked over to the left. Look over your right shoulder and try to keep your right shoulder connected to the ground. Breathing into the twist. Twists are so good for sort of wringing out your internal organs like a towel. Great detox pose. And when we release the twist, some new oxygenated blood comes into our organs. Great for metabolism. Inhale, bring both legs over to the center and simply let them fall over to the right. Keep them stacked. And change your gaze, looking over to your left shoulder, keeping the left shoulder plugged into the ground. No forcing here. Gravity is doing the twisting for you. You might even close down the eyes, letting body know that rest is coming. Very little effort is now required. The shift in the nervous system. Inhale, bring both legs into the center. I'm going to come into one last back bend for practice. So plant your feet hip width distance on the ground, soles of the feet on the ground, and so that your heels are as close as possible to your glutes. Bring your arms down by your sides. And on an inhale, you're going to press into the heels and lift your hips, lower back, middle back, and upper back off of the ground. Squeeze the glutes. Squeeze an invisible block between your knees so that your knees don't splay out. And lift and open the heart. Squeeze the glutes to send the hips higher. Now, you might keep the hands where they are, or you might interlace them underneath you and straighten the arms, walking onto the fleshy parts of your shoulders. Press into the feet, squeeze the glutes, send the hips a little higher. Remember, knees traction towards each other a little bit. If this is really uncomfortable, you can come into another version of the pose by simply elevating the hips onto a block, a more passive version. If you're in full bridge, stay here for 3, 2, 1. Release the hands and lower down one vertebrae at a time. Once your hips reach the ground, separate your feet now. Step your feet a little wider than the mat and let the knees fall in towards each other. Feel a nice release in the hips. Now we're going to find a windshield wiping motion with the legs. So let both knees fall over to the right. And then windshield wipe, fall over to the left. Don't do this if you feel any sharp pain. But otherwise, feeling the nice full range of motion of the femur bone in the hip socket. And hug the knees into the chest. Give yourself a tight squeeze. Nice tight compression in the hips. Give yourself a hug and a nice well done for completing your practice before the most important pose of practice, which is coming, and it's Savasana, corpse pose. Extend your legs out to the bottom corners of the mat. Extend your arms out. We're just lying on our backs. Palms are facing up. You'll notice your feet will naturally splay out. Your fingers will naturally curl into the center of the palms. Close down the eyes. And the purpose of this pose is to simply rest for the next couple minutes or so. I'll mind the time. Find stillness after all that movement. Allow the body to absorb the benefits and the fruits of what you just did. Let go of any effort whatsoever. Nothing left to do. Nowhere to be but right here. Let go of any effort to control the breath. Notice how it might become a little quieter, a little softer. Let your body become heavy and soft and fully supported by the earth beneath you. You are not holding yourself up or gripping at any part of the body. Notice if there's anywhere where you're still gripping. Let that part go. Let it become heavy and soft. Bring your awareness to the skin of your scalp. As humans, we hold a lot of tension in the little muscles there. See if you can relax all the little muscles in the skin of your scalp. Relax the muscles in between your eyebrows and all the muscles across the face, the cheek, the jaw, the space where the eyelids meet. Detach the tongue from the roof of the mouth. Feel the back of the head heavy on the ground. Feel the shoulders and neck. Feel light across the heart space. Feel the back line of the body connected to the ground. The shoulder blades. Think down the arms. You bring your awareness all the way to the palms, the space of the palms, the positioning of the fingers without changing them. Feel your pelvic bowl heavy into the mat, warm and spacious. Your thighs are heavy and soft as you fall deeper into the mat. Your knees, your calves, your ankles, the arches of your feet, all the way to the very tips of your toes. Let every part relax. Now letting go of any effort, any focus on any part of the body. Let the mind do what it wants to do. Begin to deepen the breath. Take a big inhale. Open the mouth, a big exhale. Start to awaken the senses and come back into the body, keeping the eyes closed. Find some very micro movements in the fingers and toes. You might find some circles with your wrists and ankles. Reach your arms overhead. Kick through the heels. Take the deepest stretch you've taken today, getting tall. And hug your knees into the chest again. Give yourself a tight squeeze. Taking your time in the transition outwards, keeping the eyes closed if you can. Maybe roll on to a side. Enjoy the fetal position for a bit. Eventually, Once again, taking your time, we'll meet in a seated position as we started. You might sit up onto a block again. And keeping the eyes closed. To keep this quality of awareness, this quality of presence as we transition back out into the world. Grounding through the sit bones, reaching tall through your crown. Your palms might stay on your knees or bring your hands to heart center in prayer. Take a moment to feel the body, the energy across the body. Does the body feel any different? Bring your mind back to that intention you set at the beginning of practice, that person. Bow your head to heart center. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Namaste.